Hello, it's Susan here from BNHA Deku Cosplay, and today we're going to be making Deku's Halloween costume from Boku No Hero Academia. To make the ghost outfit for Deku, we're going to start with a very large piece of white fabric. I'm using some extra wide muslin, but you could use an old bed sheet or whatever you have available. And we're going to lay it out, and we're going to lay it out folded in half. So I've got the fold on this side so that when we cut it, it will be symmetrical. Cut a half circle in the center along the folded side. This is going to be the head hole. Then we're going to cut the edges so they're a bit more rounded. And as you can see, I took big chunks out of it. You don't have to worry about having it be symmetrical or nice. It's supposed to look like a ragged ghost. To make the hood for the cape, we're going to be using Simplicity 8276 for the Kigurumi pattern, and we're going to cut 4 of the hood back pieces and 4 of the hood front pieces. I cut the hood front piece a little bit bigger than the pattern piece just to make the hood a bit bigger. So now we're going to take the hood back pieces and putting 2 of them together, we're going to sew them together along the back of the hood, and then taking 2 of the hood front pieces, we're going to sew them together along the top, and we're going to do this for both sets of hood pieces. On one of the hood front pieces, we're going to sew the little face. So the eyes and mouth are hand sewn on, and those are felt. And then for the little freckles, I just sewed on some sequins and beads that I had lying around just to give it a little bit more dimension. Then we're going to sew the hood front piece to the hood back piece, and we're going to do this for both the lining and the outer part of the hood. Putting right sides together, we're going to sew the outer side of the hood to the lining along the curved edge. Turn the hood right side out, and we're going to stitch all along the edge, so it's going to top stitch around the edge of the hood. Then we're also going to continue stitching along the neck part of the hood to keep the 2 sides together. Then I cut a piece of bias tape that is long enough that I can fit my head through it, and sewed the 2 ends together, and this is going to serve somewhat as an anchor point for the hood and the cape. Open up the fold of the bias tape, and we're going to sew it to the inside of the hood, leaving a space at the front. Gather the neckline of the ghost cape part, and we're going to sew it behind the hood to the bias tape all the way around. Then we're going to fold the bias tape over so that it encloses the raw edge and sew it into place. I'll probably get a comment or 2 saying that I'm not using the proper stitch in the ditch method, but this is a ghost Halloween costume, so I'm not worried about that, so I'm just going to fold it over and sew it in place. To make the ribbon around the neck of the ghost, we're going to cut a rectangle out of green fabric, fold it in half, and sew it together along the top to create a tube. Turn the fabric tube right side out and press it flat. Then we're going to sew some white bias tape along the center. After the bias tape has been sewn on, zigzag the ends to help keep them from fraying. Then we're going to fold the piece in half and sew it together along the side. Turn it right side out, and now we have the piece to go around the neck for the tie. And I sewed the 2 ends together since this loop is large enough to go over my head. If you want something a little closer to the neck, you could use Velcro or a snap or something to make it come apart at the back if you prefer. Then we're going to do the exact same thing on a smaller scale, and this is going to be the base of the bow in the front. Then for the ties, or tails rather, that hang off the end of the bow, we're going to cut another piece out of the green fabric, fold it in half, and sew it together along the edge, leaving a gap open so it can be turned right side out, and then continue sewing down and around the edge. Turn the tail piece right side out, and sew the hole closed. Then we're going to sew more bias tape on so that it matches the other pieces. And lastly, to create the knot of the bow, we're going to take another rectangle out of the green fabric, fold it in half, and sew it together along the side. Turn the knot piece right side out and zigzag along the edges to keep them from fraying. Then we're going to fold the edges inward and sew them into place. Wrap the knot piece around the base bow pieces and hand sew it into place. Then we're going to sew a pumpkin button to the front of it. To make the patches on the ghost costume, we're going to iron some fabric onto heat and bond and cut out the shapes that we need, just like we did for the letters on the cheerleader uniform. For the All Might patch, it's actually going to be 2 heat and bond pieces, so we have the first gold piece that still has the heat and bond on the back, and then another piece with a skin-colored fabric to make the face. For the patches that are specific designs, I just painted them with acrylic paint mixed with textile medium. You could do this method, or you could use bias tape or ribbon, whatever you prefer to make the designs. Iron the patch onto the ghost costume. Now, the heat and bond that I used was heat and bond light, which doesn't have very strong staying power, and I also had a press cloth in between the iron and the patch so that I wasn't ironing directly on the paint and transferring it, so my patch is not staying on very well. So now I'm going to just take it over to the machine and machine sew it along the edges to make sure it actually stays on. I then went around with some thick black thread and sewed loose stitches all around the patches to give them a little bit more detail. To make Deku's little witch hat, we're going to cut 2 donut shapes out of some purple felt and 1 slightly smaller donut shape out of some stiff felt to give the brim a little bit more shape. Then we're going to cut the triangle piece out of some more of the purple felt, and we're going to take 1 of the donut pieces and we're going to sew a snap on either side, and these are going to be used to attach the hat to the hood. Sandwich the stiff felt donut in between the 2 felt donuts, and we're going to sew them together along the outer side and along the inner side, just hand sewing using a whip stitch. Then we're going to take the hat cone piece, fold it in half, and sew it together along the side. Then hand sew the cone of the hat to the base, and I just added a little orange ribbon for decoration. To attach the hat to the hood, I then sewed on the opposite pieces of the snaps onto the hood itself. And with that, Halloween Deku is done. For more cosplay tutorial videos, please subscribe, and thank you very much for watching!